When you travel through the forests of the Chota Nagpur plateau, the forests remind you of an ancient folklore about how the earth was formed. In the beginning, all was water. Singbonga, or the Supreme Being, threw some clay in all four directions of the compass. Thus formed the earth. Then the Singbonga scattered the seeds he had with him, and trees sprang up everywhere. As Singbonga levelled the earth, it became heaped up in places and formed hills and valleys. This is the folklore of the Birhor people, the indigenous people of the Chota Nagpur plateau. The hills and forests that fringe the Chota Nagpur plateau on its east and northeast form the principal home of the ancient Birhor tribe.
बिरहोर बीर के मतलब जंगल और होर के मतलब मनुष्य, मतलब जंगल का मनुष्य, जंगल का आदमी।
बहुत छोटा समाज है वो, बताया ना आपको। पूरा झारखंड में हमको लगता है कि आप बिरहोर को गूगल में देखिएगा तो 9 से 10 हज़ार के आसपास का पॉपुलेशन बताता है।
Ethnically, the Birhors belong to the dark-skinned, short-statured, long-headed, wavy-haired and broad-nosed Proto-Australoid race.
We know that the Proto-Australoid migrations entered India from the northeast. But we also know that in a previous period, which can go back 50,000 years, there was the Out of Africa theory, which divided African people as coming towards India and some branching out toward Europe. So it could be that this is a reminder of a linguistic link going back as far as 50,000.
They speak a language now classified amongst the Austroasiatic subfamily of the Austric linguistic family, which extends through Indonesia and Melanesia.
Birhor language is notable because it has a click. When they speak, there is a noticeable repetition of clicks. And he said that that was a very peculiar feature also of the Bushmen in the Kalahari Desert in Namibia. And that raises the interesting proposition that there could be some very old linguistic links in the migration of Birhor tribes from Africa.
The Birhors generally select comparatively open spaces on the wooded hilltops and slopes or the edges of the forests for their settlements called tandas.
The Kumbhas would be at the edge of the forest because the forest was the resource from where they would bring the game or the ethnobotany or the food products of fruits or yams or tubers that they could find in the forest.
A tanda consists of 2 to 24 Birhor families from one or more clans. They live in small leaf huts called kumbhas. The Birhor broadly divide the universe into two parts, Rimil or the sky and Utabe or the earth. To the Birhor, the earth is a round-shaped, flat surface while the sky is a hollow concave structure overarching it. The leaf huts represent precisely this.
They would take the twigs, they would circle out a clean area and then they put a little earth around it so no water or anything if there's sudden rain could come in. They'd dig a small fire pit in the middle and then they'd make just like the Bushmen of the Kalahari do even today, they would make a round igloo type of building with a small door with a bamboo hoop or something like that in the front. And then they would put the leaves on top of this structure and the leaves would be then held down by more branches. And they would put the blankets or cloth, whatever they had, for lying around the fire in a circular way. A fire was a must. I mean, there was no home that ever was without a fire. That was a way to keep it warm. That was a way to keep the insects out. It was also a place on which they used to roast and cook the food.
These forests and hills support tropical timber trees like the Sal and the Gambhar. The summer temperatures in these parts exceed 40 degrees centigrade and drop below 4 degrees centigrade in winter. The Birhod leaf huts are perfectly suited for this weather since they stay cool in summer and warm in winter.
करने ज़्यादा ठंडा नहीं लगता,
ठंडा भी नहीं लगे। और गर्मी में
गर्मी में ठंडा लगता।
गर्मी में ठंडा लगता है।
The annual rainfall varies between 125 to 165 centimeters. The leaf huts are perfectly adapted for this rainfall too, and not a drop of water trickles into their houses.
उनके पत्ते के घर के ये उनकी क्वालिटी है, गुणवत्ता है कि कितनी तेज बारिश हो जाए, कितने ओले पड़ जाए, लेकिन उनके घर के अंदर एक बूंद भी पानी नहीं गिरेगा।
The Birhod people living in their leaf kumbhas have perfect harmony between themselves. Every Birhod is considered equal to the other.
Birhod society is a egalitarian society. So to understand why it is like that, we have to look back to the oral tradition, because the creator there is a Maranguru Bunga. And it is not very clear whether the Bunga is a male or female. They believe that the Bunga has got both the qualities.
Gender equality is a salient feature of the Birhod society, and this is largely due to their egalitarian worldview.
If a guy, if a male beats his wife, अगर वो मारता है, then the wife will also, वो भी निकाल करके किसी चीज से मारेगी.
A study of a sample of 98 Birhod families showed that 75 were nuclear. Although each family generally has one leaf hut, it is often partitioned into compartments, one serving as the lumber room where the axes, hunting nets, rope-making tools, earthen pots with dried mahua fruit and grains are kept. There is perfect harmony in the Birhod community.
They had specific purposes. Some people would be the hunters, some would be the women who are gathering in the jungle all the time. Yams, roots, tubers.
Fruit trees like the jamun, the ber, the mahua, several kinds of yams and tubers, edible berries found in these forests form a significant portion of their diet. The forests provide them with everything they need. As may be expected in these surroundings, the Birhod have developed into a keen hunter with strong powers of scent, sight and hearing, and has acquired a keen, intimate knowledge of the haunts and habits of various birds and animals. The barks of various trees and vines like chup are used by them to make ropes and plait and weave them into hunting nets with which they snare monkeys, hare, squirrels, jungle fowl, partridge and other games found in these forests. The net is the chief appliance used by the Birhod in hunting. For each net, 2 wooden poles called tainis are carried by the hunter and planted into the ground to hold the net into position.
These nets would be standing in a row in front of them. Invariably some small animal. In a 100-yard drive, you would definitely have 1 or 2 small animals coming out. Maybe a hare, maybe a porcupine, maybe a jungle fowl that was running along the ground. And if a big animal went, then it would collapse. And if it collapsed, then the woman or the man sitting behind, on the opposite side of the net, behind a bush, they would take their place and wait over there, like a hunter. Then they would run with the axe and kill it with the axe.
A simple noose called phasi is used for snaring the birds. It is made with the hair of a cow's tail by some Birhods, but most Birhod make them from choke creepers.
I've seen them make. They used to use it for making the nooses on the turjhalis for catching the fowls. So you can imagine it would be as thin as a horse's hair and as smooth as a horse's hair. And that wouldn't be one piece of fiber, because then it would break. It would have to be 10 pieces of fiber to be as thick as a horse's hair. To get that density and strength would mean 10 pieces of fiber would go into making a noose the thickness of a horse's tail hair. But they made them, and they were stronger than nylon.
Besides hunting nets called jhali, the Birhor makes small nets called turjhali for snaring squirrels and similar small animals.
They would not make any noise at all, and they would just or tap or a noise like that. Not more than that, certainly. No shouting, complete silence. So that was enough to get the little birds going.
The Birhor do not hunt in the same forests every day, and this maintains the balance of game in the forests. They collect honey and beeswax.
जो मार्केट में जो आपको हनी मिलता है दे ऑल डुप्लीकेट्स, लेकिन जो बिरहोर मध ला के देगा आपको वो दैट इज नेचुरल हनी.
They not only consume what they hunt and gather, but they also sell or barter them in the villages at the fringe of the forests.
If they are so able to make money quickly by catching a few birds and animals, what do they do with the money? They share it. If 5 rabbits have been caught by a food group of say 50 people, and if they could make say in one day 1,000 rupees, that 1,000 rupees would be equally distributed among the whole food group.
The food is cooked outside their leaf huts. Rice is a highly esteemed food and is had with boiled leaves forming the side dish.
The rice had to be bought because they did not have rice fields. They were not doing agriculture. It's a pre-agricultural society.
The Birhor people do not keep the fire burning constantly and produce it whenever required.
The food was very good. The Birhor, because I have often eaten food with the Birhor, because it was dal and it was rice, and from time to time it would have exotic mushrooms. They knew were edible. Because the wonderful thing about the Birhor is that every plant that he knew was edible, he used to eat it.
The Birhor also has detailed and intimate knowledge of the medicinal properties of the roots and herbs found in the forests. This has earned the Birhor the reputation of the most efficient herbal doctor. They are in great demand in both tribal and non-tribal communities. Their medicines are effective on headaches, stomach aches, body aches, wounds, fever, dysentery, joint pains and pregnancy.
They would prepare all kinds of aphrodisiacs, painkillers, some remarkable remedies like for epilepsy, hydrocele, and the villagers used to buy these from them. So you would have medicines for coughs, high blood pressure, dysentery. The highest sale was for chini pishab, diabetes.
Every Birhor clan has a tradition of its ancient settlement having been located in some hill or the other within Chota Nagpur. And once a year, the Birhor assemble on some open space outside their leaf huts to offer sacrifices to the presiding spirit of their ancestral hill. By the side of most of these settlements is a sacred grove called the Javar or the Jilujayar. This is the seat of the Sendra Bungas or the spirits presiding over a hunt. The Chandi Bungas or the Sangi Bungas are spirits common to the community. The Birhor people pray here before a hunt and divide the game between them after the hunt. Their spiritual guide is a man called the Mati, with whom the spirits are supposed to be communicating. It is a person who feels a call for the vocation of a Mati. He undergoes training under another Mati, observes certain strict rules as to diet and worship, and is thus believed to have attained the occult power that is essential for becoming a Mati. Such a person is believed to have the power of second sight. The function of a Mati is to identify the spirits that are causing sickness or misfortune to a community and to appease them through sacrifices and worship.
सब लोग ठीक करो.
The whole life of the Birhor, economic, domestic, social and socio-political, is pervaded by his religion. His religion consists of a sacred presence and spiritual energies that lead him to appropriate rites and sacrifices, charms and spells to control, avoid, or repel the spirits.
I saw a big bolt from a truck standing in the middle of it with a nut on top of it. So I said, this is a very peculiar thing. I said, this bolt that you're showing me, this big bolt, where did you get it? So he said, we find it on the road. So I said, this is fallen off a truck. Some truck has dropped this. So this is not an object of worship. This is not a bonga. No, this is a bonga. So I said, tell me one thing. Why is that a bonga? And the pujari told me, he said, truck is so powerful. It takes so much coal, so much load. It is a bonga. So I understood, something I had never understood in 30 years, that a bonga means power.
The Birhor has developed a worldview that is totally integrated with nature. Their magical practices to stop rain, stop lightning, stop storms, make rain, recover a lost dog, drive away bugs and mosquitoes, secure abundant harvest, and prevent pumpkins from rotting show how integrated they are with nature. Even their dreams are interpreted in the context of nature. For example, if a man dreams that he is cutting a sal or a kusum tree, a death will occur in his family or clan. If a man dreams of another person harming the trees, a death will occur in the family or the clan of that person.
They're that close to the nature. I mean, there is Birhor, then nature, then God. It's like that.
The close proximity of the Birhor with nature is evident again. The Birhor people abstain from killing, destroying, maiming, hunting, injuring, eating, or otherwise using the animal, plant, or other objects that forms his clan totem. They also prevent others from doing so in his presence. Eating, killing, or destroying one's clan totem is regarded by the Birhor as equivalent to killing a human member of his own clan. They believe that if the totem animal, plant, or object diminishes in number, the clan too will suffer a corresponding decrease in number. The civilized world calls these superstitions, but at the back of these superstitions exists a lively recognition of a powerful spiritual energy in every animate and inanimate object. This attitude towards the spirit world and the practices that have sprung from it constitute the Birhor religion and Birhor worship.
They have survived Dravidian presence in the subcontinent for at least 10,000 years, possibly Aryan.
The flora and the fauna of the forests have determined the nature and quantity of their food, the size of their colonies, the character and material of his dwellings, and generally influenced his occupation, material culture, and even social organization. They name their children after the seasons they were born in. If a Birhor girl is born at a time when mangoes ripen, she is called Paklahi. In order to make their children strong and hardworking, the Birhor bring them up on milk only during their infancy. Since they are hunter-gatherers and they need to control thirst, and the milk-only diet does precisely that. After 50,000 years of having lived as the children of nature, the Birhor has mastered the art of survival.
The Birhors are survivors. They have come from a Paleolithic period to the present, perhaps the oldest living society in the Indian subcontinent.
The Birhor celebrate Bahaparab, where they wear flowers, sing, dance, and make merry.
They do not have the deodorant that like people use. So what they will do, they will squeeze some leaf from a particular plant called kapurmali. So they will squeeze it and put it over their hair and their shoulders so that the fragrance will come. They have a particular kind of herb called pussy pan. When you eat that, तो वो लाल कलर का उसका वो आता है. So they will consume that. I mean, they'll eat it and make their lips red.
This is indeed the brightest part of the year for the Birhor, with many festivities and weddings taking place during these months. Marriage in the Birhor community is fixed by parents and getting consent from the bride and the groom. The society provides no restriction in selecting one's spouse except avoiding 3 generations of both the father's and the mother's side. And of course, a boy or girl from the same tanda or colony cannot marry. People from a number of tandas gather together at weddings. On all festive occasions, dancing goes around the whole day. They are the true forest people. They believe ferocious animals do not harm them if they are not disturbed or harmed. When trees start blooming in the jungle, the Birhor don't cut the branches. They do this not only because the trees bear fruits and flowers that are useful to them, but also because they feel a communion with nature's ecstasy. The Birhor does not eat mahua flowers or mahua fruit until he has offered the first fruits of the season to the spirits. Similarly, he does not drink honey from the dhawai flowers unless the first drops are offered to the spirits. But the majority live mainly by hunting and by making and selling ropes and rope products.
The fibers would be individually taken out and made into very fine threads. The finest thread a Birhor could make out of a choke fiber piece would perhaps be a little thicker than a spider's web. They could make fishing lines out of the fiber. And the bark of trees, they used to boil them for medicine. They would take out sap. You're seeing a very civilized, settled society with a very safe, secure economy, enjoying life more or less, being able to make their own food, being able to make their own strings for their own nets, who had a minimum need for clothes. The amount of clothing he required was probably half what anybody else required.
The younger tribals are relatively clean, but the older ones, aged over 45, seem filthy and covered with ashes. Even very young children wear ashes. The ashes are their protection against the cold, and the older tribals and children wear ashes because they are more vulnerable against the cold.
They have their own way of surviving. For example, they have this mahua, which they will dry it and they will keep it in a jar or something, which they consume in the winter, which works like chawanpras. They won't wear the woolen clothes, leather, but they have a different way of survival.
Hence, while the civilized world looks at them as filthy, they probably laugh at the heavy woolens that the modern man burdens himself with.
So they had already come to such a nice arrangement with their environment that heat and cold were equal to them. They were children of the forest.
They tread along the paths known to them and return to the starting points in about every 2 years. They migrate because this is their way to help the forest regenerate and provide for them in the future.
They never cut the wood, the tree. They will only collect the dead wood.
Even around the fields of the settled Birhor, the lower slopes of the hills are never deforested. Either this is amazing coincidence or that the tribal has a sense of the dangers of erosion. If you ask them, they say they don't cut the trees on the lower slopes because the hill will fall away. This is probably the best description of erosion that you will ever hear.
Once I visited the Birhor colony, and then when I went there, I met a lady who was like elderly lady, and when I was talking to her in Birhor, then she said to me, when the earth became so warm, so hot, that these insects and the birds have died, they have fallen from the sky. So if we see it in a different way, we can see that the lady is talking about global warming.
Society, which supposed to be backward, is actually showing us a way of life that we have lost.
The forests are not only the provider of the Birhor people, but also their playground, from birth to death, and a place that houses their deities.
The Birhors of Hazaribagh are a very good example of people who up to maybe 4 or 5 years ago were living in a Stone Age manner almost, with a modern industrial paradigm in India. If such a people could show us the way now into the future, there would be nothing like it.
The forests of the Birhor are disappearing. Who's taking us forests? Irrigation projects, iron ore and coal are discovered, and the country's needs demand their exploitation. Jharkhand is one of the richest mineral zones in the world and boasts of 40% and 29% of India's mineral and coal reserves respectively. Due to its large mining reserves, mining and mineral extractions are the major industries in the state. Value of mineral production during 2017 and 18 stood at 1,666.25 crores or $289.57 million US. Jharkhand ranks second amongst all Indian states. New railways cut through virgin territory and the tribals' land, and all this is being done in the name of progress, of development and of national interest. And where are the Birhor now, after all this development and modernization? The forests seem empty and the Birhor seem to have disappeared. After intense search which show telltale signs of modernization, you finally see the Birhor. They do not live in their leaf kumbhas anymore. The efforts to give them the comforts and the benefits of the modern world have uprooted them. The Birhor have been zealously uprooted from their time-tested leaf kumbha to the miserable concrete buildings to integrate them with the mainstream society and upgrade their standard of living.
एज ए रिसर्चर वहाँ जाते हैं तो उनका कहना है कि अगर आप सरकार का आदमी हैं तो वो घर मुझे हमसे ले लो क्योंकि वो मुझे सूट नहीं कर रहा है.
ये कॉलोनी बेकार है.
तो फिर उन्होंने क्या किया, अपने ही आधार पर, अपने ही बलबूते पर उन्होंने फिर वो पत्ते के घर बना करके उसमें अपना जीवन बसर कर रहे हैं.
The Birhors have started now building kumbhas inside the houses because they feel that the houses themselves are not secure, and if they have a kumbha it may be useful inside the house.
The new houses created a need for warm clothes and blankets and fuel to make them warm. The Birhor couldn't afford all this.
There was a time when the Birhor did not ask you for anything. They did not ask you for money. They did not ask you for blankets. They did not ask you for medicine. They did not need anything from the outside world because their way of life was completely self-sufficient upon the environment in which they lived.
Another significant aspect of family life was ignored. As soon as the Birhor children grew up into youth, they would move into separate leaf huts. Even marriage required the couple to move into a separate leaf hut. This too was not possible with the modern housing schemes.
There are kinship reasons why the current housing is really inadequate because a circular arrangement accounts for the kinship arrangement of the Birhor. They have to have the kumbhas, leaf houses in specific places. Apart from upsetting the kinship arrangement of a kumbha, which would generally be about 10 houses in a circle, so that if I got out of my bed in the morning and I got out, I may not see you, I may see him. So it was related to our relationship. Now that doesn't happen today because there were rows of buildings. And instead of say 10 families in 10 kumbhas, they'll have maybe 30 or 40 families in 30 or 40 concrete houses in a line. In the construction of the Birhor colonies, anthropological views have not been taken. Otherwise they would never have made them into colonies. They would have let the Birhors live in their own kinship patterns, which are in circular formed arrangements.
The authorities seem to have a strong dislike for the traditional leaf huts of the Birhor people.
पत्तल के घरों में रहने से नीचे से ठंड भी लगेगी, बरसात में नीचे पानी घुसेगा ही घुसेगा.
अगर उनके पत्ते घर से के अंदर अगर पानी चला गया, एक बूंद 2 बूंद पानी गिरने लगा, वो समाज से उनको लोग अलग कर देते हैं.
इससे अच्छा पत्ता का कुंभे था।
हाँ कुंधा था वो बढ़िया।
हाँ
नहीं चुका था।
वो नहीं चूता था और गड़ा में लगता था ये टाइम में।
The housing programs failed because the houses that were constructed for the Birhor were big and ventilated in comparison to the Kumbhas, which were warm and cozy.
नहीं घरवा हमारा नहीं बेस लगो, हमरा कुंबे बेस लगो। अच्छा किसी ने।
कौन वाला घरवा अच्छा रहा है ले? ये पुरनका घरवा की नया घरवा?
पुरनका घर है।
कुंभा में आप रहे हैं?
हाँ कुंभा में हम रहे हैं सर।
तो कैसा अच्छा लगता था?
हाँ अच्छा लगता है।
वो वाला घरवा अच्छा है ले ने?
हाँ
काहे अच्छा है ले बोला?
वो पहले पुरखोती है कहीं तो अच्छा जहाँ जहाँ लिए तहाँ वह बनवा लिए।
अच्छा पहले घूम घूम के रहा अली?
घूम घूम के रहा ली।
कोई तकलीफ नहीं है लो?
नहीं।
पहले वाला तो सर बढ़िया था।
If any people is put into a corner and made to feel demoralized by being what they are, for the sake of being what they are, then that people will be very vulnerable. And it is this vulnerability which was actually used as a way to break the spirit of the Birhor.
The aggregation of too many families at one place resulted in the quick consumption of the forest resources around their modern settlements. Their traditional choice of ecological settings was not considered while establishing their modern colonies.
I found so many Birhors, they were using cement houses for their goats and cattle.
अभी आपको मौका मिलेगा तो आप कुंभा में रहना चाहिएगा?
Either leave them the way they are or market their products so that the benefit can go back to them.
रस्सी पका बनना जानते हैं?
हाँ अभी ये निकल के दिखाई दीजिए सर। मुझे भी छटता है, तकिल भी बटता है, रोजगार करेगी ये सब सर।
आप मधु निकालते हैं, हाँ। रस्सी बनाते हैं, आपका हाँ। मधु रस्सी हम खरीद लेंगे, आपको उसका नफा देंगे तो आप हमको दीजिएगा?
दीजिएगा, देंगे।
आप लोग खरीदेगा तो हम लोग बेचने के लिए तैयार।
रोप मेकिंग और हनी कलेक्शन बहुत अच्छा आइडिया है क्योंकि वो खुशी काम करेंगे।
The establishment and the bureaucracy doesn't believe that the Birhor would be happy in their forests, following traditional vocations like collecting honey and making rope.
केवल रस्सी बुनने से और केवल मधु और जड़ी बूटी के कलेक्शन से क्या मिलना है? वो तो बहुत एक जो गरिमापूर्ण जीवन जिसको कहते हैं उसे हो नहीं पा रहा है।
The efforts to take the Birhor out of their traditional economy and integrate them into the mainstream is on in full swing.
तो इतना ही तो हम चाह रहे हैं उसमें कि उनको गरिमापूर्ण जीवन मिल सके। कुंभा में उनको गरिमापूर्ण जीवन नहीं मिलता है।
The irony of these efforts to give them a life full of modern amenities that should make them proud is visible in every Birhor colony today. The zeal of the government to give the Birhor a proud life seemed to have uprooted them from their idyllic forests and boxed them into miserable ghettos full of filth and unhygienic conditions.
The development for the Birhor must be in terms of what the Birhor is going to accept, not against them.
Why did these development programs fail and continue to fail all the way to today?
At least the hopes and aspirations of a tribe which is carrying definite ethnic traditions should have been done in accordance with anthropological views. Either the anthropologists have not known what they are doing, or the government has not listened to the anthropologists. And I would take the latter view because I am the person who was present ever since 1980 when Radha Mohan Sarkar was the advisor to the government on the Birhor resettlement program. He always used to say the government never listened to me.
What centuries couldn't do, civilization has achieved, and it has cut the umbilical cord between the tribal and nature. They live in miserable, dilapidated cement homes outside their forests in abject poverty, awaiting annihilation.
The entire village would land up where the Birhors were settled, and now they were not settled in the forest area quietly with their own economy and ecology and social customs, but they were dumped next to some village with all this cement and tin sheets and nuts and bolts, and the Birhor were ashamed of the fact that they were living in leaf houses when the villagers would come with their umbrellas and their cycles and tell them that you are animals you see living in the leaf houses, live like us.
You can find people singing the Hindi songs. They do not know how to utter it, but still they are doing it because they think maybe this will earn us some respect from the outer.
Against all sensibility, the projects designed to convert the Bidhor from the children of the forests to dwellers of the plastic urban world is on in full swing.
बहुत सारे आवासीय विद्यालय या विद्यालय शुरू हुए हैं केवल इनके आदिम जनजातियों के लिए जहां उनके बच्चे हों.
The education schemes for the Bidhor children have failed miserably. The Bidhor's family size is small, and even a child is an asset in their traditional economy. No one can spare children for school. School timings needed to have suited their economic convenience. Their dilemma between following the traditional hunter-gatherer existence and take up cultivation and other new age occupations haunts them even today.
And now they have lost it. They do not know where we are. They do not understand. Either we have to keep the tradition which we were living for centuries, or we have to transform ourselves to a person which we are not.
Their attitude towards human life too is very realistic. The tribal is good to children because they represent assets. Hence the population of the adult Bidhor is comparatively less. Children belonging to the age group of 5 to 10 are maximum, while persons between 35 and 40 are minimum. Hence, paid family planning reduced the percentage of children amongst the Bidhor and brought them to the brink of extinction. Today, the Bidhor are trapped between patronization of civilization and the pride and independence of their traditional life. The proof of this lies in every house where everyone still has their game trapping nets, and the people who are still resisting being herded into the rat race of urban life still go out hunting regularly. Though some traditionally nomadic Bidhor go to work as truck or tractor drivers in the town of Hazaribagh, where they have been forcibly boxed in by the government housing schemes, they too continue to pursue hunting and trapping whenever they get the opportunity.
मन तो करता है शिकार करने के लिए, हम जा नहीं पा रहे हैं, ट्रैक्टर अभी चला रहे हैं, तो सोमवार को हमको छुट्टी मिलता है तभी हम जा पाते हैं.
खिलवा करते हैं, खरहा मारते हैं, हरिण मारेंगे, सुअर मारेंगी.
Though the forests are fast diminishing, and so is the game contained in it, the proud Bidhor keeps trying to resist the ruthless onslaught of modernization and tries to cling on to the only way of life he knows and trusts.
Bidhor people, the parameter for happiness is jungle. If they have like jungle, they have everything. They will be very happy if they get the root from the jungle for like their day's consumption. So if they eat that, and they have hadiya to drink. So that is what they're happy with it.
When a man like this loses his forests, something inside him dies, and it is that something which made him a man. And it is the forest that is the first casualty when civilization sweeps over the tribal.
All over India the forests have been destroyed, all over the wildlife have disappeared, and that is not due to the Bidhor. It is due to the government destruction of the forest.
जंगल के जो पशु हैं जो जिनको वो या पक्षियां हैं जिनको वो पकड़ करके बाजार में बेचते थे या अपने भोजन के रूप में इस्तेमाल करते थे, उसमें भी कमी आई है.
वो दिना तो फसल था, 2-3 फसल था, अब कुछ नहीं फंसा.
अब पहले खाना के कोई तकलीफ नहीं हेलो?
नहीं हेलो, खाना के तकलीफ
सब ठीक हेलो?
सब ठीक हेलो.
अभी
तो बड़ी तकलीफ, भूख मरो लगा ली.
It is almost impossible for a non-tribal to understand what a forest means to a tribal. It has a life of its own with which the tribal's own life is inseparably lined. It is the mother goddess that gave birth to all men, and the umbilical cord cannot be cut.
वो रस्सी बुने या खेती करें, इससे उनके न भाषा उनकी बदलेगी, न बदलने के लिए कहा जा रहा है, न उनके शादी ब्याह में कोई विधि बदल जाएगी, ना गीत बदलेंगे, ना गान बदलेगा, ना उनका वो जो अष्टवैसंगिक भाषा परिवार है बिरोहरी वो बदलेगी. तो उसमें कोई परिवर्तन तो होना नहीं है संस्कृति का.
शादी में पहले ढोल मांडर बजा है ले
ढोल मंदर नचा बजा सब बजा है
और अब नहीं
नहीं।
बच्चा लोग मधु छुड़ाने जानता है?
नहीं जाने
नहीं जाने।
जंगल घूमने भी नहीं सक रहे।
अच्छा, तो अभी का जो बच्चा आपका है उन लोग जानता है जड़ी बूटी?
वो बच्चा लोग नहीं जानेगा।
Two qualities are common to all tribals: a sense of humor and a sense of detachment. These qualities have enabled him to survive the worst we have done to them, particularly in our efforts to uplift them.
In a cosmopolitan capitalist society, to have the world view of a Birhor, I think, is a great privilege. Because then you have the best that the modern world can give you, and at the same time you are not going to destroy it for the sake of overindulgence.
Maybe there is hope in a Birhor folk tale that says men had sticks and stones as their tools and weapons. The Asur tribes began smelting iron. The intolerable smoke that arose disturbed Singbonga, the Almighty, up above. After failing to persuade the Asur to desist from smelting iron, Singbonga descended himself and burned the Asur in their own furnaces. Will mining, industry and modernization be rooted out by some calamity in the future? Will Singbonga come to the rescue of the Birhor? Is there any hope for the Birhor? Will the Birhor get back their forests and go back to their simple, pristine life of minimum materialism and maximum values? Will the smile return to the faces of the Birhor people and teach the modern world the core values of humanity?